to look at as an example. He's really great at talking about other people more than most authors do. If we look at this, and you notice that he's tweeting fairly regularly, but it's being split up. Probably some of it's being scheduled. This one on the top, he's looking at a blog. Then he's looking at a new Android app. Then he's got an ebook. So there's his marketing piece, right? Then speculative but provocative lab mice. Oh, cool. We got to go look at that. You know, so you can see how he kind of weaves in information that people are going to chase and go read and go look at with stuff that's his, with stuff that's from O'Reilly. There's a lot of really great stuff. And another thing I wanted to point out, and let me just go back for a second. On his, he did a great thing. This is great for authors. He had everybody send him pictures holding his books. And then that's the whole background for his page. That's a cool idea. You know, Tim O'Reilly does it with, here's some notes. Here's some things that are coming out of my head. Another really good idea for authors. You know, what am I thinking about? What is my inspiration? This is a great way for you to engage people when they go to your Twitter page by just putting something interesting up there.
Before you move to comments,
yes.
Someone I went to a workshop recommended with tweeting to have one tweet out of every 3 have a link, and the rest be more engagement. And I don't know where she got that idea from, but I was just noticing on Tim O'Reilly's that it was all, every tweet had a link.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
A couple of reasons for having every tweet have a link, and I don't really, I don't prescribe that, but having a link in every tweet gives you a way to track it. If you use Bitly for a link shortener, if you use Hootsuite, a lot of different services will give you statistics. Was that link clicked on? How many times was it shared? If you just send a phrase out into the universe, not so much. You get a little retweets, you get a little stats, but you won't get as much. And also, you know, again, it depends on what the function of you being there is. Because if you're trying to be a news resource or an information resource, then you're probably going to want to, you know, put out more links of useful information.
What do you think about sponsored tweets?
I hate sponsored tweets. I think it's evil. And in fact, if I see a sponsored tweet come up, I just ignore it. To me, it's like the ads in Google AdWords. Yeah, not so much. Or Facebook ads, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I'm not a big fan. Though I do read them. I don't click on them. Because it's just out of spite. I don't know. Okay, so blogging. Now, there's a lot of things that authors can do with blogging. Give us some ideas. Give us some hints about what your book is going to be about. There have been a lot of people that have tweeted entire books. They've blogged entire books. They've pulled out the first chapters of a book and broken it up into pieces and then fed it out to Twitter to kind of get people salivating for what the book is about. Give them reasons to want to read it. So there's a lot of things that you can do with your blog that is, you know, I'm writing this book and it's about this. What do you think? And what do you think about this character development? You could actually develop a whole book around the input from people on your blog and how they respond to it. If everybody, you know, if you get no response, maybe you don't have a big following yet, or maybe you're really boring. So try not to be really boring, but, you know, to come up with things that people want to discuss. And again, you've got to build traffic around that before the blog's going to take off. What happens with a lot of bloggers is when they first start blogging, they write and they write and they write and they write, and nobody says anything. Nobody ever does. You've got to get somebody to comment first before anybody else will comment. That doesn't mean they're not reading. It doesn't mean they're not sharing it. It doesn't mean they're not thinking about it. They're just not commenting. So there's a lot of things that you can do in your blog to get people to comment. Be insightful so that people want to comment. You know, stir things up. You know, leave open-ended questions. Things like that can really get people talking. And especially if you've got kind of a hot button topic, go ahead and be polarizing. You know, pick one side and say today I'm going to be blue and tomorrow I'm going to be red. See what kind of responses you get. You don't have to represent just one channel of information in your blog. You can be kind of irrational and see what kind of responses you get and let people go on about it. So there's a lot that you can do with blogging. How many of you have had books in a blog tour? Okay. So what was the experience of blog tours? Was it successful? Was it useful?
It was when we did it on our own.
Yeah.
When we pitched our own bloggers, it was really successful.
Okay. How about you?
I've done it for myself and for my clients. As a new fiction author, it was a great way to let people discover me, and it did lead to sales. For some of my authors, it's a big step forward. It really it can grow their list and get a lot of communication going.
Can you define what a blog tour is?
Why don't you define it?
A blog tour, instead of going from bookstore to bookstore like we've traditionally done, we show up at different people's blogs, and we're kind of we're using their audience. We're introducing ourselves to their audience, and then of course we're bringing along our friends too. And usually you prepare it ahead of time. So some people do it. You said 6-month lead time. I've done it in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Some people's blog tours are like 10 days. I ran a blog tour for 4 months because I only showed up somewhere once a week because I was very busy. So I prepared it all ahead of time.
So you let them know that you're going to do
Yeah.
this. You get their permission.
I get their permission. In fact, there are tons of book bloggers out there, hundreds, highly specialized in their niches, who all they do is read books and want to interview the author and do a giveaway. And so if you know what topics you like to talk about, I usually get that from the author. And some authors are really busy. They're like, I only want to do Q&As.
Mm-hmm.
So then we even prepare questions ahead of time. Some bloggers are very specific about what they want to ask the author. So it can be a wonderful mix. And I usually have an admin helping me with all the details. Because there's tons
It's a lot of
details.
work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say, to your point earlier, you really have to start ahead of time, and I've done this with many of my authors. We actually use a resource who happens to be in New York. She could be anywhere, but this is her business, and so she targets specific blogs for each book, whether it's historical fiction or whatever, and then arranges these months in advance so that her reading audience knows to expect the authors, and it's been very successful. I mean, we can't always track sales or correlate them directly, but I think overall we've seen a lift in sales as a result.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Her name is Diane Saarinen, Saarinen. She's Finnish, and she's very good. She's one of many who does this.
Yes.
I had the impression that top bloggers in any field are besieged with authors, and that was important to build up a relationship with them by contributing to their blog and just blogging and whatever. So when the time comes, you can ask them for something instead of just asking,
Yeah.
which a lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
It's not like they have a shortage of books.
There's a couple of ways to do it. There are associations that are nothing but people that, do blog tours, and they just do author after author after author, and they read the books, they get the books for free, they do giveaways, they do a lot of promotion, and this is what they do. And so there's ways to approach them. This is one of many services that does this for you. And again, the link's at the bottom. You can't read it here, but it'll be on the slide share. And so there's a couple of ways. You can pitch bloggers yourself. We do this with our authors. We'll go out and research a particular field. We'll pick wine, for example. We'll go out and find all of the wine bloggers. We'll find wine book bloggers. And then we'll reach out to them. And when we reach out to them, we don't say, hey, I got this really great book. You should put it on your blog. Because they're just going to throw that out. It's like a press release. And I'm not real respectful of press releases, just to get that out there. We'll talk about that too. But so what you do is you go and you read their blog and you comment. Or you say, wow, I read your blog and I thought what you said about this was really great. And I think you'd be interested in this resource. And by the way, I have an author who's coming out with a book. And it takes that personal engagement to really get people to want to tweet and to blog and to Facebook, all of those things. So you want to figure out how you're going to get to them on a personal level. And it's always, trust me, ego. You want to connect with them. You want to make them feel like they're really great bloggers, and you want them to be really great bloggers, or, there's no point. You want to look at their page ranks. You want to look at compete.com. If you go to compete.com and put a URL in, it will tell you what the traffic is to that website. So go look and see if they have any traffic. If they get 20 people to their blog every day, who cares? Then a lot of people there's two ways of doing the actual blog tour. Sometimes there's questions in advance, and the blogger may have a set list of questions that they want to ask. You may have a set of questions that you want to present to them and say, here's answers to 20 questions about the book. Here's an excerpt. You need to package it for them if they're really busy, especially if you're on a short timeline. It's the same as meeting any other press person. There's a lot of debate about whether bloggers are press or not, but you want to be prepared with a package. Give them the headshot, give them the excerpt, give them the cover shot. We put it on Dropbox as a way, and we'll just share that link with people and say, here's the excerpt, here's all the stuff that you need to write the post. If you want to talk to the author, we can arrange that by phone. You could do a podcast. We do a lot of blog talk radio promotion, a lot of things that you can do all around blogging, but you need time. It takes time to research them. Doing it in 2 months is fantastic, but I can imagine it was an insane amount of work. And getting the bloggers to commit during that time frame is hard too. They got other things to do. Yes?
Stephanie Chandler in Sacramento has 2 email lists, 500 internet talk shows on business and 500 internet talk shows on lifestyle.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, that's great. So when you find those resources, then you really want to nurture those resources so that you can leverage them.